Hey Baylor fans, this is your call to gear up with Harley-Davidson of Waco. Whether you're hitting the open road or tailgating at McLean Stadium, we've got the ride to match your Bear pride. Check out our wide selection of new and pre-owned motorcycles, visit our service department, or shop all the latest gear and accessories to show off your Baylor spirit and Harley pride. Visit us today and find your freedom on two wheels. Harley-Davidson of Waco, where Baylor fans never ride alone. Visit in-store or at hdwaco.com. Sic Em Bears.
Welcome into this week's Sic Em Podcast, powered by Harley-Davidson of Waco. Glad you're with us this week. Our pleasure to introduce to you, visit with Baylor's new Associate AD for Enrichment and, what am I leaving out?
Mission Impact Enrichment.
There you go. Mission Impact and Enrichment and chaplain for Baylor Athletics. It's Kevin Washington who is with us. Welcome to you. I'll get the title right. Spot on next time.
It's taken me a couple of weeks to make sure I get all the words and names in there.
Does it fit on a business card?
You know, I haven't tried that yet. We'll see.
Do people still do business cards?
I think I've seen a lot of the phone touching more than that, where they just kind of share through the phones.
Yes.
I don't know how I feel about that one yet, but I might get a business card just to have the classic.
I got you. Well, welcome to Baylor. We're glad you and your family are here. Such a great area, and an area that Baylor really puts an emphasis on, Baylor University and Baylor Athletics.
Absolutely. And
Don't
that's
you
one of the
feel
reasons
that?
we wanted to come here.
Yeah.
Is to see that kind of emphasis while also having the emphasis on excellence. And so to be committed to the faith, but then also committed to excellence and trying to win games, you don't see that anywhere else in the country. And so they had our ear when we first started talking, and it's like, man, okay, this is unique and something that we're definitely excited to be here about, or excited to be here to do.
Very cool. Let's go back, let people know your background. You grew up in Sugar Land, or high school at least in Sugar Land?
That's exactly right. High school in Sugar Land. My wife and I both went to the same high school, and then we ended up splitting for college. She went to Midwestern State, played softball over there. I went and played football at Notre Dame.
Yep.
And so got up there, had an experience. Wasn't exactly the one that I was wanting.
An experience.
An experience, for to say that. But it was a time when the Lord got a hold of me. And so that's where it was the most important piece of it. That's where I learned what it meant to be a chaplain. There was a pastor there, and I've actually told some of the athletes already. I learned what it meant to be a chaplain through the pastor up there, Pastor Vernil Lewis. He would let me borrow his van. He would let me come in and do laundry without any expectations. So he didn't try to beat me down with Bible verses or you got to be a Christian to do this and that. He let me borrow the van, and so I'm a football player on weekends using the pastor's van. And so that helped keep me in check a little bit, so I'm thankful for that. I'd go in there and do laundry and then just leave without saying or doing anything. He never really wanted or expected anything. And when I was ready to have those kind of conversations, he was right there. And so to me, that's what a chaplain is someone who's going to walk with you wherever you are, through whatever you're doing and whoever you are.
Wow.
But got to go up there at Notre Dame with my experience. The Lord got a hold of me, had time left over, and actually played ball at ACU for 2 more years while I did grad school. And then from there, had the chance to try and go to the NFL, but had a talk with a coach. He says, man, do you want to go play football or do you want to use the platform? I said, I want to use the platform. He says, well, then don't play football. He said, let God give you the platform you want. It's been a few years making, but, I mean, we're here, so I can't fault his advice. And so went into working for FCA, worked for them for, I want to say, 7 to 8 years.
Okay.
My wife and I got married in my time while we were working for FCA, while I was working for FCA. She came in, joined staff, and so she also started doing college ministry. And so for that first, 8 years of our marriage, we were just doing college ministry together on college campuses, first in Abilene, at Abilene Christian, Hardin, Simmons, and McMurray. And then that took us to University of Houston, because we're both from there, and so we got to go home and do U of H ministry for 3 seasons. In that time, Coach Tom Herman was there. He saw the work that we were doing there and said, hey, I want you to come do it just for the football team at the University of Texas. And we said no. And then some people told us to pray about it. We prayed, asked a few more questions. It was a good opportunity. So we went up there, and I was actually at the University of Texas for 8 years, serving as the director of player development. I'm glad we're on podcast. When I've told other teams and coaches, they usually have a couple hand signs and a couple things they want to throw up or down, I might say, with the horns. So we were there for 8 years. It was a really good time. I really love the city of Austin. Love the work we got to do there, meet some good people. But as we kind of had our family growing and then opportunities to grow, this just made a lot of sense, and it made sense for us to make a move at that time.
Wow, very good. Capsule tour of your stops along the way, and also along the way, your undergrad degree at Notre Dame, and then a master's at ACU, and then somewhere along the way, you got your you're working on your doctorate now.
I am. So I got 2 degrees at Notre Dame. So undergrad was in film and television and sociology. I thought I wanted to be you. I did. I was like, I want to be John Morse.
But you had higher goals than that.
You know, I realized I wasn't going to be able to reach that given my window. So I said, let's just take it off for a second. Interesting enough, I was like, man, you got to start, and you know this, you got to start at the bottom.
Yeah.
Whenever you're getting into film. Like, it's not just what you see on ESPN and all this stuff. Like, you got to start at the bottom. It's like, man, I don't want to be that broke when I first started my career.
That's right.
And so I went into ministry, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense because you're still not making money. But 2 degrees there, film and television and sociology, and then a master's in communications at ACU, and then actually a master's in biblical counseling, and now working on a doctorate in biblical counseling.
Wow.
We'll see where that takes us, because that is getting a little bit more difficult when you're switching jobs, when you're switching cities, and you've got a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old.
Yeah, right.
It makes it a little more difficult.
So who's that through, the doctorate you're working on?
So that one's through Midwestern. So
Okay.
Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary up in
gotcha.
Kansas City, Missouri.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, again, welcome to Baylor. We're glad you are here, and your time at Notre Dame sound like a growing time for you in all aspects, right?
Very much so. Very much so. I went up there expecting one thing, and so I went to play for a coach named Tyrone Willingham.
Yep.
He got fired right before I got there, so I never got the chance to play for him. Ended up playing for Coach Charlie Weiss for his first 4 years. And so that has informed me. I didn't realize that at the time, but that informed me, because when you're working in college athletics, not every kid that you're working with is playing for the coach that they came in to play for.
Good lesson.
And so it's just being able to learn through some of those things. So I got to learn about relationships, how impactful those are, how important it is, about who you know, not just going through and doing all the things that are check the box type stuff. So I got to make a lot of relationships, a lot of friends, been doing a lot of weddings. We still got our group chat from my Notre Dame days with, 4 of my guys that we're really still close with. Yeah. But it was a good growing time for me. Got away from home to be up there and not just be around my mom and dad and my little brother all the time. So that was a good time. It was funny. I'll tell people, when I went up there in the summer as a freshman, everybody was talking about how hot it was.
Right.
Like, what are you guys talking about? This is 80 degrees. This is lovely. And so I'm laughing at people. And then it got to almost winter. Not real winter for them yet. It got to almost winter in Indiana. And it was like, I don't know, 20-something degrees. Yeah. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, are we canceling school yet? Like, what are you talking about? And so all through that first year was me trying to figure out, how do you survive snow and ice and drive on the roads? And I picked up a few tricks I could bring back with me. So
nice.
It's been a good development time while I was up there.
That's great. And then back to Texas, to
back
ACU.
To Texas. That's exactly right. And so I got the chance to continue playing. So I had time left over. Obviously, portal and things weren't happening then. But we went to summer school so you could get your stuff early. So I finished with a year left over. I ran into a coach named Chris Thompson. He's over at Florida State now, I want to say. But he was the head coach at Abilene Christian, and I was done with football. I was kind of burnt out, just kind of how things were going, what they did. And I met him, and he says, if you really want to win games, we'll talk with you about it. We're not just kind of doing stuff just to do it. But he was also about developing young men. So much so that he would take 2 days out of camp in the middle of camp and go off on a retreat and just talk about what it meant to be a man. And so we would take time off. We wouldn't do any practice or film or anything like that. He'd bring out speakers, or he and the other coaches would talk, and like, this is what it means to be a man of God, or just a man in general. And we also want to win games. And so that was a great experience for me. I mean, we won conference championships, able to do All-American. So all the things I thought I'd do at Notre Dame, had this opportunity at ACU, which was amazing, which is what led to the opportunities to go play continually, or to continue playing after that. Yeah. And that's just where I really saw, like, man, you can do this faith and excellence thing. And that was one of the first times I saw it. There was one more of the coach in high school, but the thread was, there's coaches that take it seriously that also want to compete. And that's something that is unfortunately rare. And I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to create that, to showcase that. And Baylor's already doing it. So I was trying to figure out how I can jump on board and help out.
Ooh, sweet. You sound like you've mentioned some of the guys, some of the men you've crossed paths with that really poured into your life. The coach, or not the coach, the chaplain with the van.
Oh yeah, Pastor Vanilla Lewis. Yep.
Yeah. I had Notre Dame, and then him at ACU. Who else?
Man, so you've got those two. One of the ones is Coach Lazaro. He was my high school coach. He saw me walk in for physicals my freshman year and said, hey, if you take care of business, you will not be paying for school. Like, your parents won't have to pay for school. I'm like, that's a bold statement.
Right.
But it came true. I remember one time getting in trouble in school. Coaches brought me to the teachers brought me to the coach because, you know what I'm saying, coaches will handle it. And he sat me down one day after practice. I'm not going to run you because all you're going to do is get in shape. Like, you're just going to use it. He said, you got to make a decision. Like, who are you going to be? Are you going to use the gifts and opportunities, or are you just going to go blow them all away? And so it was just a great opportunity for me to learn from him. There's another mentor of mine, Nicholas Ellen. He's also a counselor, but has started a couple of businesses as well, teaching and training different people. And just to see him apply the word of God to everybody's life, but then also to business, which is so cool to me to see. Like, you can be good at what you do and not feel bad about it and just be really good.
Right.
And so he's been one. Obviously, my mom and dad are their own just subset category of influences on me. But I think those would be, we ask the question all the time, I'll ask the question sometime, who's on your Mount Rushmore of influence? And those are usually the faces and the people that I'll say are on my Mount Rushmore of influence.
Nice. Very good. You and I actually were in the same room together in December, which was fun. It was the National Football Foundation Awards Banquet, which is a big black tie dinner in the Bellagio in Las Vegas, which is great.
Yes, sir.
And you're there, and I happen to be there also. But you told me when we first met, you wanted to come up and say hi and introduce yourself, knowing you were coming to Baylor, but you thought we didn't really know each other before.
Like, let me hold off right quick, because I was there with one of our players who was up for an award, and I saw you, and it said, "Man, Baylor, the voice of Baylor, the Baylor Bears,
right.
You know, up for, you know, to be in the Hall of Fame." I'm like, all right, cool. So Baylor's already representing. So this is a good to know we're going to a place that represents well. And I wanted to go say, hey, I'm Kevin Washington. I'm going to be up there soon.
Yeah.
But being there, I was there with Texas, you know, with one of our Texas players. I'm like, you know, let me just wait, and then also not be awkward.
Come, right?
Exactly. And so we got to enjoy our time there, but it was just really cool to be at that event. I'd never been there before, and so to see that event, just to see the faces walking through, and the people that had been there, and those that are represented. I mean, it's just amazing to have like yourself, and then even to be there with one of our student athletes, or one of the student athletes at the time. Say our student athletes, and student athletes. But it was just a really cool event, and so to see you there, I'm like, all right. Okay, like, I like this.
There's Baylor.
I see some Baylor, but I see some green out here representing. So
that's very cool.
It was a good confirmation of what I was hoping to come and see once I got here.
And who was it you were with?
I was there with Jake Majors.
Gotcha.
Jake Majors, our center for a long time. Great
was he
dude.
up for one of the Scholar Athlete Awards?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he didn't win, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's frustrating. But
he was right down the road from me. I remember him.
There it is.
Very
exactly.
good.
Yeah.
Another guys that you worked with at UT. I mean, so many in 8 years there. So many. But is it pronounced Jade?
Jade
Barron. Folks may remember the video. If not, you can go back and search and find it. Cotton Bowl press conference. Texas just lost. Great season. They just lost. Very disappointing. Press conference is over, right? But it's not over for him.
No, Jade wants to call everybody back and says, hey, we do this. The only reason we can do it is because of who Jesus Christ is, because of who God is. And man, I'd love to take all the credit for that. But I know it's just being faithful with the journey that God has all these different student athletes on, to see his growth, our, student athletes' growth when it's coming to Bible studies or just going to chapels when we have those before the games, or even just the one-on-one meetings with guys. It was amazing. And it's just so cool to see again. And you're going to hear this repeated. It's something I'm very passionate about. But to see faith and excellence at the same standpoint, like you can compete and love God. And for some reason, like that does not compute with people. And I'm just trying to make sure that gets done. And Jade was a great example of that. Quinn did that. I mean, there's so many different guys that did it. But when you put microphones in front of them, no one's forcing them to say anything. No one's saying, hey, you have to talk about God or about Jesus or anything like that. But it's just what's on their heart, so it ends up on their lips.
It was so impressive. I mean, the press conference was over, and he says, "I've got one more thing to say." And he sat back down,
bring it back,
and he said, "I think he started by saying we've already won." Meaning that he's part of the ultimate victory. It was very good. It was very impressive.
It was. We were all sad walking out there. It's like, man, you won, but wish we'd have won a couple more. It would have been fine to go to have a national championship game against my alma mater. I was like, man, it's like, God, did you draw this up perfectly for us? And he did, but it wasn't the way we had wanted to end. But
that's great.
They understand the ultimate victory, which is all I can ask.
So this may not be a fair question. You're just here at Baylor, but Baylor is different, in the way that we not only allow people to to talk about their faith and share their faith. It's encouraged, and we want our student athletes to grow spiritually and grow in every way. Baylor is different, isn't it, than some other, no, not any particular schools, but Baylor's different than a lot of schools.
It is. Baylor is different than any school I've been to. And again, that's part of the reason that I'm here, is I want to be a part of that. And I remember being here for the first week, and it's like, man, I've prayed at more meetings now than I have since I've been on staff at the ministry.
That's funny.
And, man, you're at other institutions, like, obviously that's not on the docket. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, you're at public institutions, that's not what you do. That's fine. That's part of it. You find those that do want to pray, and you pray with them.
Yeah.
But at Baylor, for it to not be rare to pray at meetings or before or in or after, like, that's great. Like, that's what I want to do. And you can pray and then have a really hard meeting. It's but that's what we got to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that has been really good. And then just how welcome my family's already been just into the university. I mean, we've already been over to the dining hall a couple times. So
There you go.
my 2-year-old loves that. She's like, all right, cool. I'm just running around. She gets to go pick everything she wants to eat. They've been to a lot of the athletic games already. I'm telling you earlier, they got to go. She's ridden horses at equestrian.
Nice.
She's been to acrobatics and tumbling, and now she's been doing cartwheels for the past 3 weeks, which is awesome. But they've been involved already, and that's part of what we wanted, in a transition. Man, how do we have our family involved with what we're doing? And Baylor makes that really easy.
Ooh, and that's Corey, your 2-year-old?
Yep, Corey's a 2-year-old. My son, 4 months old, is named Cannon.
Okay.
And then my wife is Jordan.
Okay, very good. Well, glad. Sound like you've been indoctrinated pretty well.
They're doing it. We're drinking it all up. We
Here
are.
at Baylor. Very good. What on a day-to-day basis, what's that like? People may be interested in, it's probably different every day, but how would you say day-to-day is for you?
Man, let's put a pin in that and then invite me back in another 2 months.
Fair, yeah.
Right now, it's just about meeting everybody and trying to meet with all of our coaches, all of our teams, get in front of the teams, try to figure out what we do with the chapels that are happening on campus. There's a couple of Bible studies that I'm already able to help with. And then we've also got 2 staff members already in Josh Iambe and Holly McKenzie that are doing amazing work. And so trying to figure out, man, what are y'all doing? How can I support you? And so I'm just on a big fact-finding mission right now. So my day looks like setting up meetings with our chaplains that we have, our sports ministry staff, with Juliana, who I report to, so getting to talk to her about just vision and different things like that. But right now it's meetings, and praying.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do some of these things? We're putting a retreat on again this May, so trying to figure out, how do we, organize those things? Who do we collaborate with? Like, Paul Putz over at FSI, and just figuring those things out. So that's really a lot of my meetings right now. Is morning is how do we meet with people, figure out what they're about, learn, try to maybe put some vision on a few things.
Yeah.
Afternoon, let's get out to practices. Let's go meet some people. Let's go see how amazing these athletes are. And just enjoy the time around there. And so it's been a lot warmer recently, so that's also making it a lot better to get out there.
We got some good ones. We got great student athletes. How about that collaboration with the Faith and Sports Institute? That's great, isn't it?
Man, oh my goodness. That couldn't be placed any better. Just the work that they've already done. I had some connection with Paul and FSI just from being a chaplain down at University of Texas. We'd already done a few things together. And so he was one of the people that said, hey, this is an opportunity you might want to look into.
Nice.
And so I appreciate him for that. But the reach that they have, not just all over the country, but even the globe at this point, to say, hey, we want to make sure that there is a place that we can talk about faith and sport. And then they got the theory and the research, and then, we've got the people that are doing it. And so that collaboration is one that, that's made in heaven, right? Yeah. And so that's where we get to see, man, what are y'all learning and growing? Who do we get to hear from all over the country, from different ministries, people that want to be trained up? And then how are we in Baylor Athletics going to be able to enjoy some of the fruits of that research, but then also provide some of the insight to it? Because a lot of times there's a lot of theory, and theory is great until you're actually sitting with somebody after the game and they made the last play that cost us the game. Okay, cool. Now what's your theory going to say?
Right.
Now what verse are you going to throw out there? And trick question, because if you throw a verse out there right after that, probably not going to go too well. But being able to put, practice 2 theory is going to be really helpful. And so it's just really cool to see all the FSI is doing, what we're able to do. Kevin Gall and some of the people over there are already putting on, summits and different things like that. So that's one that I'm ready and excited to explore, to see how great that could be for Baylor Athletics, FSI, and then just anybody who wants to know how to compete in the faith.
Yeah. Wow, very good.
Mm-hmm.
We have at Baylor, I don't know if you've come across this yet or not, but some summer mission trips have been really big here, really going back to West Erie days and through John Maurer and, of course, Holly and Josh also. But that's really big, and I love that our student-athletes have that opportunity during their time here.
Absolutely, and hopefully we can grow that to where we're having even more opportunities and more of our student-athletes can get out there. It's transformational.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to go outside of the country and see how other people are living and then help them, you come back here and there's a whole new lens. You're like, okay, I'm a little bit more thankful for the things that I have. And it's funny, when we've done service trips before, when I've done them with just other athletes in general, it's funny because some people haven't flown on planes without being on a team.
Right.
And then you try to get them on a plane to go out of the country, and things get real interesting. And it's a lot of fun. But, I mean, even the life lessons you learn from that, like, all right, how do you figure out which gate you need to be at, what plane, all those kind of things. Hopefully we'll be able to continue that, create some partnerships with sports ministries across the globe, and then just be able to do things that are very unique to Baylor that help others, but then also help our student athletes become global citizens.
Good. Have you found, from Juliana for sure, and Mac, our athletic director, but then as you meet our coaches, can't you see how this culture of joy, to use Coach Drew's term, can't you see how it just permeates everything at Baylor with the coaches, being as committed as they are? For sure. It seems like the coaches all enjoy each other. Yeah. Like the coaches, when I'm walking into a coaching staff, like they're hanging out, like they're joking, they're laughing, they're, having hard discussions and hard conversations. They're, trying to deal with all things going on with NCAA, but they seem to enjoy each other. And so that's something that's already just very obvious to see and notice. And you're like, okay, like that's good to know that people are about what they're saying. And so you see those kind of cultures and those things permeating and the things put in place. I think we had Sabrina Little come in, and so that was something that was offered up to the athletic department. And so how are they trying to continually develop and pour into staff? It's just really cool to see that it's not just something they say, it's a commitment. And you can see that through action. Yeah, and so many of the sports, maybe all of them, have some kind of chapel service on a regular basis. I'm with men's basketball right now as we're heading toward the Final Four, or however long we're playing. But there's chapel every game day with men's basketball. Absolutely, and there's chaplains for each team. I want to say most of the teams, if not all of them. There's chaplains they have for each one, and that's something that I think was big for me to see, that there is a commitment to that, to say, hey, like, it doesn't have to be the same person for everybody, but each team has someone that speaks that language, that understands the players, the coaches, and can speak to them where they're at. That just says a lot, because you're willing to invest in people by giving people that can do those things. And so that's really cool to see, and we'll be able to pour into our chaplains and continue growing that as well. Love it. Josh and Holly are pretty good, aren't they? They're amazing. Yeah. They're amazing. I got here, I'm like, so you need me here because, but just what they have done and are doing, the relationships they have, the things they've put together to develop our student athletes, the opportunities they've created. Like I said, that's almost like interview process. Okay, cool. These are kind of big shoes. You got to make sure you're ready. But then you learn what Josh and Holly are doing and have done, and you're like, oh, it's a little bit nerve-wracking here. Let's see what we can get going. But they're really good, and so to have them on the team is like, okay, like there's a lot we can do and accomplish. Let's just put our heads together and figure out what God may be calling us to, what might be most impactful for our student athletes, our coaches, given the season that we're in athletically. Wow. Your plate's pretty full, especially right now, just starting here at Baylor. But what do you and Jordan like to do away from work? Away from work, we like to entertain 2-year-olds. Yeah, that's full-time. Yeah, for sure it is. I mean, we enjoy getting outside, getting outdoors. We enjoy hiking. And so we haven't gotten the chance to go through Cameron Park yet, but that's definitely on the to-do list. I mean, anything we can do to create experiences, we're all about it. We're big board game people, too. Okay, nice. And so we like to play games, and so we'll try all of them. They're all going to be all good, and so we've found ones that are duds. I'm like, all right, we're tossing that one out. But we're definitely board game people, so much so to the point that we've done premarital counseling before for different athletes or coaches or people we've got a relationship with. And part of what we've begun to do is what we called PMGC, premarital game counseling. Oh, really? Interesting. And so with each of our sessions, we'll play a game that ties into what we're teaching. You can learn a lot about people from how they play games and what they need to understand. And so it's just been a fun way to do that. So we enjoy board games. We enjoy just kind of hanging out, being around friends and family. Yeah. We enjoy getting outside, hiking. I think that's probably the main thing that we do. Like I said, a lot of that's been taken over by the 2-year-old, by the 4-month-old at this point. But
that's really it. I mean, we're all about hanging with the people that we love and like.
Nice. PMGC. I like that.
PMGC.
You need to copyright that.
We should. It's been a lot of fun doing that.
Well, it's terrific to visit with you. Great to have you and Jordan and your family here, and it'd be great to serve alongside you. But welcome to Baylor, and thanks for being with us.
Man, I appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing what God has in store.
Are you a Harley guy at all? They're our sponsor.
Man, actually, I need to talk to somebody from Harley. I've had a great idea for a Harley-Davidson commercial for the longest time.
Okay.
And I think it'd actually be good enough for a Super Bowl commercial. So, like,
all right.
I won't even ride one. So you don't have to give me a free Harley. I would just love to see if they think it's a good idea and they can take and do what they want with it. But other than that, I just love seeing Harleys because they look really cool.
We love Harley. We'll fix you up. We'll connect you with the right people. Okay?
Perfect.
All right. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Kevin Washington, new with Baylor and Baylor Athletics, and that is this week's Sic Em Podcast, presented by Harley Davidson of Waco.